based authentication. Every service, every facility, every technology will have its limitation, and also we know that we do have limitations for biometrics. These are not simple systems, and that's why we don't find the biometric gadgets coming along with all the laptops and with all the mobile phones. There was a time when only expensive mobile phones used to have this biometrics, but nowadays you can buy phones maybe in the range of 8,000 or so where they do have this biometric. The cost used to be pretty high, but now it is dropping. And there were times when the application of biometrics was only related to certain highly secured areas, related to defense or maybe some advanced research centers and other places like the airports and so on. And it was not possible that it could be used for general purpose authentication. Even today, in the at ATMs, we don't find biometrics. We do have the PIN number, we do have got the cards, but biometric is still not being used there. So the use is still not that widespread. Another problem is that it is definitely prone to false detection. Though we do say that high success rate is there, 99%, 99.5% success rate is possible, but it is prone to false detection. Again, in the MBBS test, I know that some people were caught who used to have, because they knew that biometrics was being used. So what they used to do was there's some company there's some company which used to create rubber latex based thumbprints, and a person used to wear them. And when the thumbprint information was desired at the time of admission test at the test center, the person was using that latex covering on his thumb. It was detected, but really we do not know how long that practice was being adopted for long. So it's not very easy to that is confuse the machine. Machine can detect, because nowadays the machines do sense whether the thumbprint which is being collected, the information which is being collected, whether that is coming from some live organ or it is just some dead object like rubber or latex. So limitations are there. Limitations do exist, and replication is also possible. It is difficult, but people have been able to replicate using that, as I've already mentioned, using latex or rubber material. The other common technology which is used is that of token or card, but we all know that cards can be misplaced. They can be, if you put them in your back pocket, they can break down, so they can be stolen. Replication is quite possible. There are some scrupulous joints, scrupulous places where if you use your debit card or the credit card, there's always a possibility that your information will be collected and it can be misused. So people are quite cautious when they visit certain countries where they know that there are people who are using technology to just replicate your cards. Another possibility is that once you share your card, that's a breach of security. So sharing and loaning is quite possible. And we all are aware of various thefts which have happened at ATM. I'll be talking about that also in the next few slides. So this technology of your smart card, debit card, whatever card that you're using, it too has got limitations. Text passwords are in vogue for long. In fact, right from the days when the computers were developed, 1940s, ENIAC and DVAC, those times also people quickly realized that they had to protect their systems, and they resorted to this means of passwords. And then since they had a number of users for accessing those machines, they started having multiple username and every user having some unique password. So they were basically alphanumeric passwords. And these passwords, we all know that they are based on precise recall, and they have been there for long. And whenever something is there for long, it is quite prone. It is quite prone to attacks. People know how these passwords are being generated, how they are being used. So, and one serious limitation of this complex password is they are quite difficult to remember. This is really a very serious issue. That is, human beings can remember other things. They can recollect a song which they heard long time back, or the nursery rhymes that they learned when they were infants, kids, and they remember that. But when you ask them to remember a complex password like BXUT123 hash and so on, some complex string or number, they will very quickly forget it. Maybe in a matter of just few hours, they might forget. So complex passwords are quite difficult to remember. This is the limitation of human beings rather than the technology itself. So what people normally do is that they resort to very simple passwords just to facilitate ease of memorization. Then you also find that people use the same password for different application, for different services. This is a very common thing which happens. If you try to recall your own email accounts, your own different facilities which you avail, either through e-commerce or maybe submitting a paper in a conference and so on. So many avenues are there where you use your password, you generate a password and then you use it. You will find that you are just re-applications. So for emails, for Facebook, for social media, for mobile phone, different services are availed using the same password. I'm not able to look at your faces, but I knew that if I was addressing an audience in offline mode, then I would have certainly seen faces who might be wondering that, okay, they are also doing the same thing, same password for different applications. Because we know that it is not just a matter of 3 or 2 services. Sometimes you find that you are using 10, 12, 15 different application services, even more than that. So you have got your own limitation. The brain is not able to just recall the right password at the right time. It happens. So what you do sometimes, if you create very difficult password, so just to facilitate memorization, you write them down on a piece of paper or anywhere. Maybe on your mobile phone, just enter all these passwords, or perhaps in your email, you just write an email and you just save all those passwords. Once it is out of your hands, once it is out of your mind, because it was supposed to be knowledge based, you need to carry the password in your head. Once it is out, it is all open for others to hack the information. So text-based passwords and passwords are shared. People share the passwords very, very often. Somebody has got a bank account and sometimes he's not in the mood of going to the ATM. He'll just ask his son, go and access the amount from the ATM. Of course, they will be sharing the card as well as the PIN number. And once you have shared, breach of security has happened. And there are stories you might have heard of how there are calls, the phishing is there, where they start asking for pertinent information. They will also even scare you into divulging the information that your bank account will get frozen if you do not go for KYC. So you have to be very cautious. One has to be very cautious. Of course, you are all educated person and you all know what's happening. But when you look at the statistical information, you find that people from all the strata of society, who are falling to such tactics. So don't divulge your information. Don't share the password with your friends or your family members also. Shoulder surfing. This is a very common phenomena which happens and is also one of the major means through which the information is hacked. Your password is stolen through shoulder surfing. And what is shoulder surfing? You're using your system, your mobile phone, or perhaps your laptop in a place which may be in public. Maybe you're using a cyber cafe, or maybe sitting at the airport or a railway station or any public place. You are entering your confidential information, and there are people who are just peeping from your shoulders, trying to just look into what you are entering. So this is just a common word which is given to this thing which is called as shoulder surfing, but shoulder surfing need not just be done through the photograph that I've shown here, that people peeping from the back. No, it is possible perhaps when you're using a cyber cafe that maybe people who are walking behind, they might look into it, but there are other ways through which the information can be stolen. Everywhere we have got CCTV camera is there, and quite high resolution cameras are possible, and the frame rate is also very good. So even when you are entering your password very quickly, you do not know that maybe there are some camera around which is collecting the information. And we have got PTZ camera also. Very good zoom is there, and somebody might be just interested in looking at exactly what you're entering in the keyboard. So he might zoom in, and using the fast frame rate, perhaps he can play at a very slow speed and exactly know what you had entered as your username as well as the password. All this is happening. This is a reality, and we have to be aware, we have to be cautious. We need to understand that whatever information that we are entering, it is quite susceptible at any point of time. Either you are in public, or maybe you are sitting in your office in a high rise building, but you are not aware that in the adjacent building there is a person who is using a telescope. The telescopes are available quite readily. In India, also, you're just using about 5K or 7,000, you can buy a Celestron telescope having a magnification index of 145x. So that's what is happening. Anybody having a good zoom lens or a telescope far off from your place of work, he can very easily see what you are entering on your keyboard. These are just examples which can tell you that uh, even the password is detected. There was one story that from the reflection from an electric kettle which was placed close to the keyboard. So, the person was entering the keyboard, whatever reflection was there, that reflection was captured using a high zoom lens camera, and little bit of image processing was carried out to extract the exact password that the person had entered. Whatever keys he had pressed, all was detected. So you do not know really when your information is being captured. Maybe you are moving in a corridor in a hotel and you have got a mobile phone in your hand, you're entering something, some confidential information, maybe the PIN number of mobile phone. And this is the age of YouTubers. Everywhere you find people having the camera and moving around, talking to themselves, and vloggers are there. This is the age of YouTubers, vloggers. But you really do not know whether the person indeed is a YouTuber or not. Maybe he's using a very high zoom lens camera and capturing the information in the public place like hotel, airport, railway station, and so on. So you have to be very cautious when you're using such gadgets. How to prevent, how to ensure that you are safe from shoulder surfing attacks. It's just a funny thing, but this is one of the best things. Maybe you need to have something through which you can just hide your screen from others, hide your keyboard from others. Now, talking about shoulder surfing, you are or from the area of technology, and you know how technology is rapidly advancing. You can easily see that the image that I have captured is that of a thermal image. So there's a keypad, and on the left hand side you find that the thermal image of that keypad. I'll give you the example that suppose you go to some point of sale, you bought some good, and then you are going to swipe your credit card or ATM card on that point of sale machine. You swipe the card and then you are entering the PIN number, but you didn't care to see that there is someone who is behind, who is very innocently, innocuously using his mobile phone. So that mobile phone is just, it looks like as if the person is looking into his mobile phone, but what that person is doing, he has got a special device in his hand, and that is a thermal camera. What he simply does is, the moment you enter your PIN number, he captures the thermal image. So you can see on the left hand side that this is the image which has been captured. So human temperature is transferred to the keys for a certain length of time, and the one which is the key which is recently pressed is being shown with the greatest temperature, highest temperature. So orange red color is indicating the high temperature, whereas so just by looking at this image and comparing it with the keyboard, the keypad, you can see the PIN number which was entered was 4185. 5. So just from thermal imaging, one can capture the PIN number. And I'm sure not many are aware that these things are happening. The thermal cameras have become quite inexpensive now. You can search Amazon and you can buy a thermal camera which is of the same size as a mobile phone. Even you can attach it to the back side of your mobile phone. And it looks like as if you are using a heavy kind of a mobile phone which has got a good camera. But no, here you are using a thermal camera through which very easily the information of from the ATMs, from any point of sale, wherever a person has entered the PIN number, that can be collected. Just yesterday I checked this company FLIR, how do we pronounce it? I don't know, Fleur or Flare. Their camera is thermal camera is available for 33,000. So it's easy for all these scrupulous people who are interested in capturing your, hacking your password and PIN numbers to adopt the technologies, the newer technology which are on the horizon. So I was talking about the limitations. Shoulder surfing is a very common phenomenon which is being used for capturing the information. So we have to be careful. That is what's happening around us. That we have got a camera which is recording all our movement, and cameras are becoming omnipresent everywhere you find. In fact, when we talk of smart cities, we are going to use quite huge number of cameras everywhere. And these cameras, the content is available to all those stuff of this. We have to be aware of that also. So security issues are certainly there also. And we know that cameras are being used for lots of applications in smart cities like ANPR, automatic number plate recognition, and so on. So many interesting applications are there. Once we have got the cameras around, we are also using face recognition just to track some people who we want to just, there's police records are there. So from that record, we keep on scanning the faces who are moving around in the city, and that information is captured. Well, that is one application, but you really do not know that how these camera recording might be used later on. So much content is being gathered. So many people are walking on the streets using their mobile phones, and how these cameras might be used for capturing the information. This is a thing which happened first of all in the UK. I heard about it about 10 years ago. That at an ATM machine, a person came in the morning. He attached a simple device. You have to enter the debit card or the ATM card, and this looked like as if it is a part of the ATM machine. So that got connected to the ATM, and then he also connected a keyboard. There's a possibility that he can go for a spoof keyboard, but this is another possibility that he attached a camera, and this camera looked like as if it's a part of the ATM machine. You see, when you go to an ATM machine, maybe a new machine which you have not used earlier, you are not sure because different companies have got their own different types of standard ATM machines, so you are not able to distinguish whether the gadget is a part of the ATM machine or it's separately connected by a person who is more interested in collecting your information. So you come to the ATM card, you swipe your card, and then enter gets stored there. Throughout the day, hundreds of people visit the ATM machine and they keep on doing the same thing, collect their money and so on. In the evening, that person who attached the gadgets in the morning, he returns, removes the gadgets very easily, goes to his home and connects all these skimmer devices. These are called as skimmer devices to his laptops, collects the information of so many people who were there at the ATM machine. Perhaps magnetic swipe cards are there in the ATM card, so all that magnetic information is read. Then the camera recording is played for, and synchronization is done that for such and such card, such is the PIN number which was entered. All this information gets stolen, whoever visited in the morning. So it's really very important that when you visit any ATM machine, be very careful to see that wherever you are entering your debit card, that slot doesn't have any attachment, a separate attachment. So be very careful, and moreover, just see whether there is no camera mounted just above wherever you are going to enter the PIN number. So this is quite possible that your information can be stolen at the ATM machines, skimmer devices. Then keyloggers are there. Whatever information that you enter in your keyboard, you're not sure whether that information is being collected thousands of miles away to such malicious software which keep on monitoring your keyboard, because innocently perhaps you clicked on certain application and you're not sure and you're not aware that that application got installed in your system on your computer or perhaps on your mobile phone, and whatever then you start entering, all that gets logged in and sent to somebody. There's also a possibility that the keyboard may be a spoof keyboard. That is a keyboard which looks like a keyboard but which is doing something more than being a simple keyboard. This again reminds me of a story. I think it was in Hong Kong that it was detected in a bank in a building every morning, early morning. The cleaner used to come and they used to clean the work area of the manager and the rest of the areas. And what one day the cleaner did was he replaced the keyboard of the bank manager with with another keyboard. Of course, it was really necessary that both the keyboards should look and feel the same. Otherwise, we do not know. It might be detected. So what happened was he just replaced the keyboard, and the keyboard was nothing but a device which was able to capture all the logging of keys, and send this information wirelessly to a van which was parked outside the bank, and there were people sitting in that van collecting all the information. So when the bank opened and the bank manager came, he entered all this information. He could not detect that the keyboard that he was using was just a spoof keyboard. He entered the username, password, and everything was hacked. So such cases are there. Such stories do abound, and we have to take lesson from such stories and ensure that we do not get become victim of such activities. Phishing sites, it's a very common method through which the information is hacked. You get a lookalike kind of a site, you start entering your username, password. Once you enter the password, the phishing site says error, because it is not the genuine site, it just says some error. And then you think that, okay, it's always possible, human error is possible, that by entering the password, you did commit some mistake, and then that phishing site gives a handle to the real website, and then you start entering your password in that bank site. So you are not even aware that initially you just entered your information, your confidential information, to a spurious site. One major problem with the use of text-based passwords, they are there for long. We know that. People have been using them for long. We find that the password that we create using the text-based passwords, those passwords do not exploit the complete range of passwords which can be generated using the alphanumeric characters. I'll give you an example. It's basically termed as a password space. That is the total possible number of passwords which can be created through any scheme. Let's say we're talking about the text-based passwords, then how many different unique passwords can be generated. That is termed as a password space. So if we have got a restriction that, okay, that's a password should be of 10 characters, and they can be uppercase, lowercase characters, that means 26 plus 26, and then 10 numerals, 0 to 9, and some special characters, maybe 30, hash, question mark, dash, and so on. If that text-based password allows such 92 different characters, then the total permutation combination, if we try to find, that would be, if the length is 10, then it would be 92 power 10. So 10 to the power 20. This is a huge figure. 20 zeros after 10. So this is the password space which is being provided by using the text-based password when the length is limited to 10 and the total possible of characters is 92. There can be some other limitation also, that is the first character cannot be numeral or special character, that those will be there. But a rough idea will be that the password space is huge. Now the question is, do we really exploit this huge password space? There have been studies which have been conducted, and they tell us in that study, in a particular study, that is 14,000 passwords were cracked using a dictionary of just 3 million passwords. So that is 25% of these 14,000 passwords were used from a dictionary. This is what the limitation of human mind is. That is, we do not create complex passwords. We do create something which already exists. Another study is there from AT&T, and they say that 1/3 of all the passwords they can be found in a dictionary. And there are password cracking softwares which are also available. What we find is that all these methods of authentication, that is text-based password, it's a very good thing, very easy to create a password. But it's basically designed using, keeping in mind the system that is based on precise recall. And it is not bothering about whether the user, who is basically a human being, whether she can really memorize complex strings of numbers. Basically, human beings are quite vulnerable, and what they are doing is they are creating very simple passwords. So the problem is there that such passwords can be very easily guessed. And we also know that when your friend is creating password, then perhaps you can even know that how many characters or how many characters will be there in that password that the person is creating. So guessing those are which the password can be hacked. So in text-based password, which is a very common method, it is not really authenticating the user. Anyone who has this information will get authenticated, because you are sometimes not creating complex passwords. So when we know the problem is there, and we are going to talk about the text-based password because that is something which has been there for ages, more than 70 years or so, and will still remain for some time to come, because whatever software which is being developed, whatever applications are coming up, they are still banking and they are using alphanumeric methods. Of course, other means like biometrics, they are also catching up. But since in smart cities, when you're talking about, the people might not be so cautious, and they will be just banking upon the text-based password in most of the applications. So there are certain do's and don'ts that we have identified and would like to share with you. So do pick a password that you will remember. That is one thing. Of course, it should not be very simple to remember. Another practice that you should adopt is change your password frequently. And we find sometimes we do not do this, perhaps because of laxity or whatever the reasons. And the practice should be that change the passwords very quickly. Create passwords which have got a good mix of uppercase and lowercase characters. And it's always better to some special characters also, hash, question mark, and so on. Of course, if that application allows those special characters, then go for. But of course, then you have to remember also. That's also important. Now, for sake of memorization, easy memorability. You see, when we talk about authentication, user authentication, there are two key parameters which are quite crucial. One of them is the security. That is, whatever scheme that you're using, that should be secure. The next thing is usability. How user-friendly that scheme is. So whatever scheme that we go for, it should try to ensure that usability is not sacrificed at the cost of achieving security. Create a password. We know that complex strings are difficult to remember, but I mentioned that you recall some old rhymes from your school days. or maybe you just know some song or some sentence in your mind which you can easily recall. Suppose that there's some sentence like, "Do you?" That's a very simple sentence that you can very easily remember. The acronyms D Y K T W T S J, and through a mix of uppercase and lowercase. Then what you get here is uh, 8 character password. Let's say question mark is also there. So this password is very difficult to be guessed by anyone who is not aware whether that you have got a tendency to just use this slogan or sentence. Do you know the way to San Jose? So this is a very, I should say, a secure password in comparison to the ones which you